right, so go ahead and state your name and tell me what I'm looking at.
My name is Henry Otero, and this is my 1978 280Z.
280Z, old school Z. We don't see any Zs here. What brought you to this meet? Mostly Hondas, but again, this thing is a showstopper. I love the ITBs. I can tell you that right now. What brought you here, and what have you done to this car so far?
So, what brought me here was my friends. My friends Gio and Isaac. I mean, you guys know them pretty well. They do come to these meets a lot. My friend Gio invited me to come over. I said, yeah, I'll come over because we do like to go to meets every once in a while. When I got this car, it didn't look like this at all. It was completely rusted and torn apart, and the interior is all messed up. But it's one of my dream cars, so I went and purchased it out in Downey. It was very cheap because the guy didn't know what he was doing to it. It was all messed up and everything. But I had a U-Haul at home, got the car built and all that. It took me like 8 years. I have this car for 8 years, but it took me just a year to build it and to actually get it running. And then over time, just build it the way it looks now, and white flares. Got the nice tires and wheels, and like you said, the ITBs were like actually the most recent thing that I did to the car about like 2 years ago. So the same thing.
I bet it sounds freaking amazing.
It's nice, yeah.
Now, my dad always grew up wanting a 280Z, but he ended up getting married and having kids, so that didn't end up happening for him. But tell me, why Z? Why Nissan? Was this like a poster car in your childhood, or where did this inspiration come from?
So the funny story is I used to play a lot of video games when I was younger. So I mean, a lot of us, I mean, you can ask anybody here, they probably play like Need for Speed or like Gran Turismo or Forza or something. So I remember when I actually saw a Lamborghini in Need for Speed, it looked like the 300ZX, like the back end. You know how they kind of look kind of the same, like that wedge shape and all that. And I was like, oh, like so I got into Zs, and then obviously that's a lot more affordable than a Lamborghini. And then as I'm looking into Zs, I see all the new ones, and then I go backtrack, and I'm like, oh, I like this style. This is like the one that I really want. And then I remember I just wanted to pull the trigger on it, and I saw one on Craigslist, and I was like, yeah, like, hey, can we look at it this weekend? And it's on the way to Disneyland. I go to Disneyland a lot. So me and my wife actually went out there and looked at it, and then it was from there on, I just wanted to buy it.
Now, you've mentioned your family. They've been supportive for it. Have there been tears? I mean, the money and keeping an older car running can be quite difficult, but How does your family feel about this build?
So my parents actually do like it. Every time I go to the house, like, oh, did you bring the white car or the truck? I brought the truck. Oh man, let me see the white car. They wanted to figure out how it is. But when I first got it, it was actually a project with me, my dad, and my brother, and a couple of mechanics that helped me. So obviously, and I brought it over. My dad was super excited. He's like, yeah, let's work on it right away. He actually helped me U-haul it back to my house from Downey and the AV. So we took it back home, and he was just telling me oh yeah, let's work on this, work on that. Worked on the engine, pulled it apart, got a bunch of stuff machined. We did a lot of the original fuel injection that was in there. We got to run in about, I think 4 months we got to run. Because before it wasn't running. When I first bought the car, it had chocolate milk oil in there. The head gasket was all torn apart. Yeah, it was bad. So we did a lot of work to it, and it, every day, working from the morning until the end of the night. And like you said, yeah, blood, sweat, and tears for sure.
What's the best advice you can give to someone that's going to pick up a beater, almost salvage, just major project car that, it's going to take time? What's your best advice for them?
Probably patience and don't cut corners. Because that's the one thing is, there were times when I'm building this thing, when I was brand new and I got it, that I wanted to just throw everything away. I'm done with this car. Fuck this car. Sorry if I cut. Anyway.
No,
anyway, so I was, that was the one thing is just being patient. Is just something doesn't work out that one day, just sit back, think about it, and go try to attack it again. Because obviously the same thing over and over isn't going to work. And then, don't cut corners. Don't cheap out on quality. Make sure you're doing everything right. If you're not sure what you're doing, just go get help. Hey, I don't know what's going on, or get somebody who luckily I learned a lot of people that actually knew how to work with Zs. There's a guy in the AV I used to hang out with, and he actually knew a lot about Zs. So I always talked to him about something every time I needed something, help with. Oh, I need this bolt somewhere, or drill something here. Because a lot of the stuff I did myself. I did everything to this car except for the paint. I didn't paint it.
Right. I wouldn't know the first thing about painting either. Cool. But I appreciate the fact that you say don't cut corners, and it's going to take time. A lot of people just want it now. And you can do that if you have a lot of money, but picking up something older and really building it from the ground up has its rewards, I think, if you do it right. Because if you don't do it right, it's going to be a biggest waste of time.
Yeah.
Last question. Sure. I know that in a few years, California is saying we're going to transition to full electrification.
Right.
No more cars that have gas motors can be sold in the state of California. What's your feeling about that? What's your feeling about electrification in the future? You know, what does it mean for your dailies? What does it mean for your project cars? Just tell me anything you feel about the electrification.
So honestly, I don't really have a problem with that because I'm a very I mean, we live on this planet, right? Like we all share the same oxygen, and obviously there have been a lot of tests with like gas and stuff, but like it's a lot safer now compared to like how it was in the 70s or 60s with like the lead gas and all that stuff. I don't know if you know about that, but it's a long story that I won't get into. But like I don't mind it, but at the same time I really just hope that they're able to let us preserve these kinds of things, because you can ask anybody out there, right? You're going in a Tesla, you know, you're driving, but it's like there's no real soul to it, right? So when you have all these cars, like all these old Hondas that everyone like, you know, have built, taking their time with, or like same with these old cars or anything like that, like there's soul to the cars, right? And that's kind of what brings the meets over here, all these people. Because if you don't have all these people like interacting and, oh yeah, how'd you do this or how'd you do that, or like, you know, I met somebody today who has a 71 who needs help with it, and I'm like, dude, open it up, because I didn't have that when I was building this car. Like I had to go look for people, whereas I'll bring it to the meet and then people are over here like, oh yeah, can I see it? Yeah, do what you want to, because I didn't have that.
Building community,
right.
I like that.
So that's what I feel like these cars do, like the gas powered cars. Like you said, like there's soul in all these, every one of these cars. That Integra, this Civic, you know, I saw like a CRZ like is like all lowered and everything. Like that was cool. I was like, you don't see that really nowadays, and I just kind of wish that, you know, maybe even hope that if we get electrified in the future, that we get to do something like that with those, because it'll bring everyone still together. And I feel like a lot of these older cars do that, and I really hope they let us keep these, because I wouldn't, if we can sell it, I can sell it, but I would rather keep it.
Yeah, it's getting harder, and I hope that these electric cars in the future don't end up being just appliances like our cell phone, just throw it away and give it away.
Get a new one next year.
Can we continue to build a car culture around electrified cars? So we'll see. Thank you for your time. I love this 280Z. I'm going to take some B-roll of it, but I appreciate